Today on Jewish Baseball More Than a Game podcast, we are joined by Eric Holtz, who was a manager of the Team Israel at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, played for the Bet Shemesh Blue Sox in the Israel Baseball League as a player coach, and is also the founder of Game on 13, where I used to go in high school and hit with my teams. This is definitely a circle back moment for me. Eric, thank you for joining us. How you doing today?
Great, man. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this and happy to be here with you guys.
Yeah, no, this is an honor. I got so many questions for you. I think really I just want to start off with how did you get the position of being a manager? How has this journey been for you? And where does this passion for baseball really come in?
Miles, I don't know that we're going to have enough time. I'm going to try and cut this down to cliff notes for you. So born and raised in the Bronx, my dad actually got to see Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig play baseball.
Oh my God.
So stories growing up for me, my dad kind of instilled the love of baseball into my earliest years and tried to kind of help me fall in love with the game, but then become the best baseball player I could be and started to kind of teach me a work ethic. And then the worst possible thing that could ever happen to a child. My father died when I was 11 years old. And it was just, it's hard to explain. Everything that happens in your life kind of like forms what you become later on. I think the reason I am who I am today with the hundreds and thousands of kids I've worked with is because I had such incredible coaches when I was 11, 12, 13 years old that kind of looked out for me, made sure I wasn't getting in any kind of trouble and I was kind of staying in the course. So, yeah, I mean, I think those are kind of like my earliest memories of falling in love with the game of baseball. For me, it was always the lessons that came with. I could go 4 for 4 today and I feel like, I'm a hero and I go for 4 tomorrow and I'm a zero. I go from Superman to Peter Pan in one swing.
I got to steal that. That's really good.
The game is just so great because it doesn't let you be that guy because karma is immediate. So you try and teach these lessons and then the camaraderie and the teamwork and the brotherhood that encompasses baseball is just, I think, why I love it as much as I do.
That's incredible. I can't even imagine listening to stories of someone who's saw Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig play. That's a dream come true for probably all baseball fans. And I guess my next question for you would be, I know you played for the Beit Shemesh Blue Sox as a player coach. Can you just kind of explain what the Israel Baseball League was like?
So this was the funniest thing. I got to go back a little bit, Danny, and I got to tell you, so my only regret in life, personally, is I did not take school seriously. I ended up going to the only school that I applied to. I went to a junior college. I was from the Bronx. I went up in Massachusetts, a place called Dean Junior College, which is now Dean College. Coach didn't like me. I mean, I was a pretty good baseball player. Coach didn't like me for whatever reason, maybe because I was different. It's hard to imagine now, but I had some crazy hair and an earring, and I might not have fit into what he wanted there. And a friend of mine was killed on his 18th birthday in a drunk driving incident. And 1984, this was before cell phones. And I left the coach a note. I said, Coach, I had an emergency at home. I will be back Sunday. I have to go home for a funeral. I come back on Sunday, and the coach said, Holtz, you let your team down by leaving. Clean out your locker, you're done. So the one thing that had been so instrumental in my life, the one thing that was so positive with the coaches and literally overnight, one decision, one bad coach, my baseball career was over. I tell you honestly, I didn't pick up a ball for 20 years, from 18 to 38 years old. The only time I picked up balls to start coaching my older son, which I don't think Jordan, who's now 32, I hated baseball. I was so angry at baseball because I felt like it turned its back on me, and I couldn't live with that. Many years later, a friend of mine said, hey, Holtz, let's go to Yankee fantasy camp. I go, what's Yankee fantasy camp? And he explains it to me. He says, well, you can go down there. You're a Yankee for a week. The old Yankees coach you. Now I go down there. Most of the guys down there are just kind of like middle-aged, whatever, non-athletes. They want autographs. They want pictures with the old Yankees and stuff. And no joke, dude, I'm 38 years old, haven't played 20 years. I'm hitting home runs. I'm hitting wood bat home runs out of Steinbrenner Field. And I come back, I said, dude, I can still do this a little bit. And then I found out about these men's leagues that, you know, were in Westchester. I'm like, dude, I want in. So I start playing men's league stuff. I'm pretty good. I'm like 38, 39 at the time. And I'm playing in like 18 and over divisions at 38. A year or two goes by. My friend Glenn goes, hey, Holtz, listen, there's a tryout for the first professional baseball league in Israel. I go, Glenn, there's no professional baseball in Israel. He goes, Holtz, I'm telling you, it's in the New York Times. I said, I don't care where it is, man. There's no baseball in Israel. He goes, I'm telling you, Dan Duquette. Now, Dan Duquette at the time had just been released, fired from the Boston Red Sox. Dan Duquette was the head of player development for the Israel Baseball League. I'm like, holy cow, like, it is legit. He goes, what's the worst thing? We go upstate for the day. We get a pro tryout. We get to hang out, and we come home. I said, you know what? I'm in. We drive up Monday morning. Now, I had played a doubleheader the day before, so I'm a little banged up and sore. Dude, I killed it. I mean, I'm 40 years old, and I killed it. I think I ran like a 7.360 at 40 years old, and
oh my God.
you know, took my 5-6 throws from the outfield and my 6 ground balls at short, and then we go into a simulated game. Literally, like, I'm facing 18-year-olds, right? And I'll never forget this. I look at strike one, fastball strike one, curveball strike two. I step out, I turn to the ump, and I go, 2 blue? And he goes, yeah. I go, perfect. I got him right where I want him. Kid throws me an inside fastball. I turn on it. I hit a rope through the 6-hole line drive. And I could see the scouts kind of just shaking their head. And then the pitcher's not paying attention. So I said, fuck it. I stole second. And I'm just having fun playing baseball, right? The day's over, and I go over to Duquette, and like, there's a couple scouts there from the Cardinals and the Cubs. And one of the guys grabs me and goes, hey, you serious about this? I said, why? You making me an offer? He goes, are you serious? I said, I don't know. Have your people call my people. And that was it. 6 months later, they sent me a contract to be a player coach.
That's incredible. I still remember, so my dad and some of his friends, all that, like, because they like were in an ownership group for the Beit Shemesh Blue Sox. I still have shirts in my attic at home of the logo and everything. And
I have a jersey hanging up here.
yeah, and I was like, it's just such a funny small world. And to this day, I remember going to my synagogue. I think it was, you know, you came with Israel baseball. It was maybe Adam Greenberg, I want to say.
Could be.
I think he was with the Cubs, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. And like now seeing it from an older point of view, it's just so cool to really now be able to soak it all in.
It's crazy because that started this whole snowball effect for me, right? Like, I spent 10 weeks in Israel. I basically run the team because I was supposed to be coaching with Ron Bloomberg, who was there for 3 days total. So it was basically my team for 9 weeks and 4 days. And you know, he came for 3 days. But it was there that I started meeting all the players and all the people for Israel baseball. Nate Fish was my roommate. Nate's like my little brother. And we would just sit up till 1 a.m. talking about hitting and approach and all kind of stuff, man. The first time in my life, like, my wife, just such an incredible woman, allowed me to go away for 10 weeks, married with 3 kids. Like, you know, it's crazy, right? I had this great summer. Years later, Nate Fish goes, hey, Holtzy, why don't you come with me and we'll go back to Israel and be my assistant coach in the Maccabi games. I go, what are the Maccabi games? So he starts to explain to me, it's kind of like the Jewish Olympics, and you know, every 4 years they do it in Israel. And I was like, dude, if my wife says, yeah, I'm in, like, I'd love nothing more. Long story short, we win the gold medal. Before I leave, Team USA asks me if I take over as the head coach. Absolutely. For 2017. And it was kind of that winter pre-Maccabi that Peter Kurz reached out to me and he said, hey, can we have breakfast in the city one day? And yeah, no problem. And he goes, listen, I heard you coming back. Like, what would you think about taking over the responsibility as the national team head coach? I said, Peter, man, I love you. I didn't even know you had a national team, right? Like it just wasn't growing the way we had thought it was going to grow 10 years prior. Like that was the goal, to make these little kids in Israel fall in love in 2000. So, finding out from Peter, I just said, dude, I'm in. Well, we want a gold medal on Tuesday. Wednesday, I become the head coach of Israel.
That's wild. Oh my gosh. And so, that kind of segues me into the next question involving just like, being the coach of Team Israel and like with everything going on in the world right now, it's very unfortunate. Are there certain challenges that you have faced in terms of, I don't know, some sort of backlash? I know sometimes there's protesting that goes on outside of the games. Is there anything that you're facing as a team or personally, or what has this been like?
Miles, it's interesting, man. I'm more interested in your story than you're probably interested in me. Okay. Because I'm incredibly interested. Anyway, we can talk about that later. I'm going to go up and just tell you that I grew up unreligious. I'm still unreligious. Do not believe in religion. Now, that's just my feeling, and I'm spiritual. I don't like religion. I think religion is divisive amongst people. I respect people, I honor people, but I don't do religion. However, I am an incredibly proud Jew. I am proud to be Jewish. I've never hid my Judaism, at any point, any time in my life. I will tell you that my first year in college in 1983, I did have somebody look for horns, right? Because they had never met a Jew before. Like crazy stuff, right? The only backlash that I can tell you was before we left for Tokyo, we did kind of like a 10-game, called a spring training or, type of thing where we went kind of around the Northeast and we played. And there was some protests, there was some protests, in 2019, 2019 leading up to 2020 and then 2020 leading up to 2021 because of COVID, right? The Olympics got pushed back a year. It was kind of the first time where it was just like, what's wrong with people, man? This is crazy. But I never personally felt anything. I've never personally felt unsafe. We'll talk about it more as we go when you answer questions. But, I was a little hesitant when 2019, we went to Germany, as Team Israel, like wearing the blue and white. I was a little nervous at first, but no, I've never felt any personal backlash in my life.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a good thing. I feel like, especially now and even before October 7th, even, it was a very sensitive climate towards Israel and the Jewish people. I'm kind of interested also to see how it plays out this year, in the Euros, especially in the Netherlands. That'll be very interesting to see.
And as a father, and not the coach, but as a father of a son who's playing potentially, believe you me, I'm going to be there, brother.
Oh yeah. I don't doubt it at all. And that actually leads me right into my next question.
Yep.
You manage the Israeli team. What is it like for you to watch Brett put on an Israel uniform and compete?
Must be a proud dad. I know that much.
Yeah, but Miles, it has nothing to do with baseball. I'm blessed with 3 kids. Jordan's 32. My daughter, Jordan's an attorney now. My daughter, Jordan pitched at Bucknell University. Sydney played and pitched at NYU, and then, Brett played at Columbia. Sydney's a pediatric oncology nurse. She's a special human being. Brett, as you got to see and kind of get to know, is a pretty good human being. I'm proud of my kids every day. I'm proud of who they are as adults. They went from my children to my friends. We have become friends. Seeing how meaningful it has become to Brett to kind of follow in daddy's footsteps, I think is probably the coolest thing for me. I listened to the podcast you did, and I had just had hip replacement surgery, so I couldn't go to the check. Watching him play against guys like Didi Gregorius, man, and hitting lasers around the field and just competing, like not shriveling up because the lights turn on, like just going out there and doing his thing and having fun. Because, as he spoke about, he overcome, some anxiety and things he used to deal with. And so not because he's playing for Israel, just because of who my children are, I'm proud every day. But to see him wear the blue and white, yeah, man, Yeah, like I never would have thought, but you don't grow up saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna be an Olympic head coach, right? And then all of a sudden, from that, Brett's career is over and he says, yeah, Dad, I think I want to make Aliyah. And I'm just like, hell yeah, dude. So yeah, that's kind of where we are.
That's awesome.
It makes me so happy. I just love that. And like, I it's so great talking to you. I know for a fact if I was a player, I would have loved playing for you 100%. And so my next question for you is just like, in terms of being a head coach, right? You know that you're going up against some pretty intense competition. What are you expecting from your guys? What is something that you are expecting from your players day in and day out that is pretty much a non-negotiable?
All right. Well, there's a couple things. Let me just change course for a second, then we'll get back to that.
Yeah.
The thing that made this as special as it was, Miles, was for the first time ever, the whole team was Jewish. It wasn't one or two guys, if you were lucky, right? It was so then it was, what are we playing for? You're not playing for a contract. You're not playing for an opportunity to go you're playing for the name on the front, not the name on the back. You're representing something that's just so much bigger than you. So getting the guys to buy in and understand that first was the biggest thing. What do I expect? We expect the guys to show up and compete, period. Compete. It is a game. We forget it's a game. It's a game. It's not life and death. We're not going to die if we lose tomorrow, and we're not, be champions if we win a game. So we don't get too high. We don't get too low. We stay the course. It's a team game. You may be great today, but somebody's going to pick you up tomorrow. I just want guys to be prepared to ball out. I want dogs, dude. One of my biggest things as a coach, and I know both of you guys are coaching, so if I can kind of help mentor a little bit here. You teach the game, but for me, you teach life. And in life, I need to know who you are. I need to know what buttons to push. Can Miles Porter take the ball in the ninth inning, up one run with a runner on second? Does he want the ball, or is it not good for Miles? Because if it's not good for Miles, Miles can't help me right now. I need to know what the right situations are for each one of my guys. What's expected is done in the preparation of the game. We're going over scouting reports, but when the game comes, it's just a game. The work has already been done prior. We're looking at pitchers' release points. Are they tipping pitches? How do we know, what slot? How does he attack guys if he's, second time through the order? So that's what my analytic team was for. For me, it was just going out and having fun and being together, man, and just understanding like that this was such a special thing that again, who knows if they'll ever go back to the Olympics, right? Like we went 20, I think it was like 21-4 that summer to qualify for the Olympics. So like, it's not a slam dunk, right? There are only 6 teams taken in the whole world. We were one of them. So trying to explain to the guys that it was just such a special opportunity and to take in every moment. But once first pitch goes, man, it's really, I don't mean to poo on any of these guys. I'm a big Yankee guy, but I'm not pooing on Aaron Boone. How many decisions does he make in a game? Right? Like changing the pitcher, right? Maybe a steal. Most of these guys are on their own. So that's what I'm saying, Miles. It's in the preparation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and also, I was always taught too, like as you said, baseball is like a microcosm of life. It has so many life lessons in it. And, leading into my next question, do you have like a manager moment from the Olympics that stands out to you, or a game even that stands out to you?
I have two for two different reasons. So I'm going to go back to the qualifiers in 2019. Again, not being religious, but being spiritual. And I'm 59 years old, and, I didn't have family in the Holocaust, but I know people who did. We are playing Germany in Germany, and they're playing Hatikva in Germany. I'm wearing my blue and white, and I am bawling, dude. I am under my sunglasses. I am bawling because I couldn't stop thinking of my mother and father and people who obviously came before, and people that we had lost in the 6 million. And here we are. Why are we different? Like, we're getting an opportunity to do something that's like incredibly special. And to beat Germany in Germany, it was like, I'm still getting chills kind of talking about it. And this is on my desk. I'm not a memorabilia guy. This is the only game ball I saved, and it's the final score of the Germany game.
Oh, man.
That's awesome.
Because it was just so different and so special. And we got on the bus and, we talked about it as a team. We talked about it. And I tried to make the kids, because they're kids, understand the weight of what we had just done and how lucky we were to be there. So that's number one. Number two, obviously, we were the first team to qualify, man, which is crazy. Like, we won the European Championship in Italy. We were the Jamaican bobsled team of baseball. And that's how people looked at us. And for us to kind of do what we did and just, I'm not a huge rah-rah guy, but like, we're on the way to play South Africa. And basically, if we win, we're in, and that's it. Like, so about 5 minutes out of the stadium, I get up, I asked the bus driver to turn the radio off. And I said, hey, boys, we've had a hell of a ride this last 6 weeks. I said, if all we do is take care of the baseball today, all we do is play baseball, play our brand of baseball, we're going to leave the hotel as a baseball team. And we're going to come back as Olympians. And the bus goes crazy and guys are banging the roof of the bus. And man, South Africa like never knew what hit them. Like, we ended up gonging them. And that feeling of being the first team, right? Other than Japan, because Japan obviously was the home country, so they get the automatic bid. We were the first team to do it. And yeah, it was just that was probably like the craziest thing, because this started out like Peter Kurz and I writing names down on a napkin in a diner in New York City. And here we are going to Tokyo.
That's insane. And it's actually, we had Justin Allentoff on yesterday, and he said when you guys were in Germany, like that moment when they were standing for Haktikva as well, he said that moment he will never forget. Just the significance of that one moment.
I'm telling you, Danny, I was just happy I had my Oakleys on, right? Because I was crying, thinking of mom and dad. Yeah, it's you can't explain it, dude. It's just, it was such a heavy moment.
First of all, this is an honor. I'm having so much fun. One of my favorite questions to really ask, because as we've talked to Nate Fish and we've talked to everyone, the game is constantly growing, and I'm feeling so optimistic about Team Israel baseball. I play semi-professional baseball myself, and I'm still trying to, it's just I just love being involved in this. This for me, this is a dream come true. My main question to you is just like, how do you want this to grow in the next 5 years, the next 10 years, or are you looking more short term?
So, okay, I'm a straight up guy, and I'm giving you straight up answers. I am incredibly frustrated at the growth of baseball when we left to where we are today. Within a couple hundred kids a year, the numbers are pretty much the same. They're flat. And I'm talking over 12, 15 years. Now, I have to take a deep dive into that and find out why. But I'm going to tell you something, and people aren't going to like that I say this, but it's true. Israeli people have no patience, which is the reason they love basketball. They love soccer. They love lacrosse. It's nonstop movement. They don't like going to play right field and waiting for a ball to get to them, and it never comes. They don't understand the chess pieces that are played within a baseball game. So I don't know how much it will grow in Israel without. It has to be introduced in school as part of phys ed, as part of an after-school program to get the non-patriot, non-expatriate kids, right? The actual Israelis involved. That's what they need to do there. Israel Baseball America is totally different. They're, and I think what Nate and Gladdy are doing is great, helping them as well. I'm very involved in the background with them, but it's identifying kids as early as 13, 14 years old, kind of getting them on the radar, tracking them so that through high school, college, then we can say, hey, you know what? Are you interested in making Aliyah, become a part of Team Israel? There are issues with that as well, gentlemen, because if you make Aliyah before you're 22, you have to spend 3 years in the Army. Okay. So guys that are 17 and are really interested in playing for Israel, if they don't already have a passport, they can't do it. Again, Miles, you asked me like what I want to see. I want to see stuff that I have no control over.
Yeah.
I want to see baseball introduced to the schools. I want to see baseball introduced in phys ed and after school programs so that it would grow holistically. Like, we start kids in T-ball and then they either fall in love, right? But we have to make them fall in love at a young age, not the 12-year-old kid that moved to Israel from San Francisco and he's already a huge Giant fan. You know what I mean? They know the game. We have to teach it to the younger players to get them more involved.
Do you think players like Asaf play a big role in that? Just like the Israeli-born players, like how? Because I know there's a lot of guys that look up to them. I know Justin talked about that yesterday. Do you think the Israeli-born players right now that are balling out in the United States, how important are they? Do you think? Do you think they should be playing a role?
Asaf is the future of Israel baseball. Asaf is not only a really good baseball player, but he's just an unbelievable human being. Homo Lipitz has been, kind of like the Derek Jeter of Israel baseball, and I love him to death, but he's mid-40s now, and it's kind of time for him to pass the torch over to Asaf. Yeah, I mean, and Asaf is one guy. We need 5 Asafs. We need more people going over there, and trying to help with funding, help with equipment. I mean, we try to send equipment and we tried for years and there's guys like Jordy Alter, who's the president of Israel baseball. He would literally carry stuff because if you get it shipped, and even if it's a donation, you got to pay 30% taxes to get it through customs in Israel. So like it inhibits what you can do. They need a Robert Kraft. They need a big name guy who wants to build an actual stadium. I don't want to say a field because they have a couple fields now, but like a stadium with facilities and then they can host tournaments and stuff like that. And I think that's probably what they need most. And then there would be excitement. One of my biggest frustrations, Miles, was, not that we were looking to be on a Wheaties box or anything like that, but did Israel even know they had an Olympic baseball team? I felt like most of the population just had no idea that, that they even had a team representing them. So, I'd like to see it continue to grow. I think Asaf is huge. They need more people like him. Alon Leishman was now pitching coach of the Miami Marlins. He's like from Kibbutz Gezer. Like having guys like that go back and constantly work with the kids and bring them feedback. And I think that's kind of like the biggest thing for them.
Do you think that, because I don't know if the MLB rules like the pitch clock and all of that go over to the international game, but since you said, that they want a faster, speeded up game, do you think implementing those rules could potentially push more people to play because you can't step out of the batter's box really anymore? You have one time out of the bat. You can only throw the first 3 times. You have the pitch clock. So they're making all these small adjustments that end up making the games like 2 hours now or 2:15,
You hit the nail on the head, but it's still too slow for Israelis. In my opinion, Danny, think about soccer.
Yeah.
I think it's slow. I'm never stopping.
Yeah.
Constantly moving. I'm going to throw something out for you guys. Nate Fish and I, the year of Israel Baseball League, 2007, they made a documentary movie. Nate and I happen to be 2 of the guys that they followed. It's called Holy Land Hardball.
I remember watching that.
Okay, I was going to say, dude.
Yeah, I remember watching that.
It was the funniest thing because there were people in the street going, yeah, I know baseball. Baseball, they hit with a stick. And there's a guy, and the guy, he's waiting for the ball, but the ball, it never comes.
That's funny. That's hilarious.
Tell you, there's some spots in that movie that, I'll watch it like almost 20 years later, and I just shake my head.
That's hilarious.
That's hilarious. Dan, do you have any more questions?
I think I'm all out.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm going to give you a couple. How do you go from coaching in college baseball to big leaguers, right? Because that's basically what I did, right? I'm coaching guys like Ian Kinsler, Danny Valencia, Ryan Barnway. One of my favorite stories, and I swear to you, dude, I don't even know that he knows this. And if he hears this, I hope he smiles, man. I'm standing behind the Turtle in Tokyo pregame with Danny Valencia. Now, Danny was like my guy. Danny for in the qualifiers and in the Olympics, like every time we needed, he'd just step up, hit a bomb. I mean, that's who Danny was. And then Ian Kinsler joined us, and Ian was starting to get a little bit older, but man, could he ball out. And Danny and I standing behind the turtle, and I am not a launch angle guy. Like, it's just, I won't even talk about it with anyone. I think it's a joke. I want your bat in the zone for as long as it possibly can. I want you to find barrels. That's what I teach. So all of a sudden I'm standing there with Danny, and Ian's swing looks just different than I had seen it, And Danny looks at me, he goes, "You see what I see?" I said, "Yeah, man, I see it." He goes, "You going to say something?" I said, "Nope." 14-year big leaguer, 4-time Gold Glove, 2-time World Series champion. What's some old man going to tell him about his swing?
That is funny. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to say?
There were so many, like, just real, fun moments. But, like I said, I really admire what you guys are doing with this. I think, especially not being religious, like, for me, being part of something and knowing you belong, to me, is so important. And after October 7th, I think, obviously, I'm not going to tell you the world changed. The world didn't change. People don't like us. They never did. And prior to October 7th, if there was a crack in the door after October 7th, it just kicked the door down. And now people are just being outward about it. So, talking to people and helping people through feeling part of something, and mental health, and just helping people with different types of support. And I think it's just really neat what you're doing. A lot of Olympians get tattoos. I mean, you can see I'm full of tattoos. I got them later on in life. So here's one, right? Tokyo and the logo. But probably the coolest one I got is that cool, with the Jewish star on it.
That's really cool.
Right. So I show that pretty loud and proud.
Yeah.
Because again, it has nothing to do with religion. But I don't care if you're black, white, yellow, red, blue. You're not going to like me because of the blood that runs through my veins, man? Or you're going to get to know me and then decide if you like me or not. And after something like October 7th happens, I think it makes everybody kind of stop and really think about, what's going on in the world, and how important it is to be able to still feel comfortable just walking down the street. You asked Brett a question the other day. I'm going to help answer the question. Dude, I'd have been nuts if my son was at Columbia when that was when that stuff was going on.
Yep.
Been down there with a baseball bat in my hand, and you're not gonna let my son in the class? Not happening.
Yeah.
Disgusted by how things have transpired in the world, but then it's, do we join the darkness or do we maintain the light? And by doing the things that you guys are doing, that's why I'm telling you, it's so important what you're doing. It's so important to make people feel good about who they are, what they are. I understand you got involved with Mitch Glasser. Glass Piece is one of my favorite dudes, man. And that, for me, is what baseball has done more than anything, gentlemen, from my earliest memories to today. The difference was my earliest memories were in the Bronx, and now baseball has just become international, and the relationships, the friends, the people, the respect, the love. So I tell you guys to keep doing what you're doing, and have fun with it. And, you don't know where it's going to end up. So enjoy every minute of it, and let me know what I can do to help you guys.
Thank you. And I really appreciate it. I'm sure Miles appreciates it as well. And,
Oh my gosh.
we were actually coaching one of the events, the showcase. And at the end, one of the coaches said something that will always resonate with me. And he goes, all of you players here now, when you go to tournaments, when you play each other later on, he goes, you're always going to have the connection now that you're Jewish. I don't know if the high school kids really took that and understood what that meant. Because, looking at myself at that age, I wouldn't have either. I'd have been like, oh, cool, we're Jewish. But I think the significance and the weight of that one commonality of being Jewish goes far beyond anything else. Like, forget baseball for a second. Like, you'll see that person 10 years from now in the street, and you'll know, oh, you know what, you were Jewish, you played baseball, and that's what's going to bring them together. And I think that is one of the most special things about baseball and being Jewish is being Jewish. You're already shrinking, Jewish geography, right? You're already shrinking, and you already have 2 million people in the whole world, right? And now you bring baseball and you want to play for the Israeli national team or be involved in Israel Baseball America. Now you're talking even smaller. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really cool Israel Baseball America is here doing this, because if the Jewish people here ever needed it, we need it now.
Dude, this is what I'm telling you, where I was not religious at all whatsoever. But because the whole team was Jewish, we had Shabbat dinner in Lithuania. We had Shabbat dinner in Germany. We said the basic prayers, right? Because it was the one time in our lives ever that we are surrounded by Jewish people in total, right? And that's where I say, I don't care if you're religious or not, you're part of something. When I grew up, it was you were either athletic or you weren't. Like I didn't see color. We just didn't grow up that way, right? That goes back to my point about why I'm not religious, Danny. I've always just felt it was so incredibly divisive. And like I said, after October 7th, you see these brainwashed kids all over the country. Half of them that have come here on visas. You don't like it so much here, go back to your country, man. We're okay here. But I'd like to see everybody just kind of, you can decide if you don't like me, but get to know me first. You can't dislike me, like I said, because of the blood running through my veins. That's the part of where we are in this world that I think is kind of the saddest part for me. Again, didn't know you, obviously, so you play against Brett, whatever. Brackley Valhalla was like Yankees, Red Sox. There was deep hatred, but then off the field, like you just people, right? Like once I take that uniform on, you just got
even the handshake. It's just like you're just guys now. You're not. And I never understood. Like also like it's one thing for like the kids to like Brackley Valhalla to be competitive, but for the parents, it's like
nuts. Parents are nuts.
Stay as a fan. Like this is not about you. This is not remotely about you. And Brett again, right? He sent the video of a parent making an anti-Semitic remark, and the first thing that popped into my head, I'm like, he is a high school kid. Like we are high schoolers. It is not that deep. No one's going to play pro baseball. This is not a heated rivalry that involves parents. This is just a kid thing. And guess what? At the end of the day, who cares? It doesn't matter.
But Danny, you hit the nail on the head, and I don't care if it's religious, if it's race, just any hatred. It's taught at home. Mm-hmm. No 16-year-old kid decides, I don't like this or that or this or that. One of my most meaningful, nothing to do with baseball, one of my most meaningful visits in Israel is we were brought to the very north of Israel, near the Galilee, 5 miles from Jordan, dude. Like we were there. We went to go visit this school. And in this school, a Jewish, right? Right? The Jewish people, mm-hmm. kind of nomadic people, mm-hmm. and Arabs. Those three were in classrooms together. Every classroom had a Hebrew-speaking teacher. Every classroom had an Arabic-speaking teacher. And guess what? They loved each other because that's what they were taught to do. So I didn't get paid to coach Team Israel. There was one stipend I got for, I think it was a couple $1,000, and it was years after I was into it. This school impacted me. Never mind me working with the kids and teaching them a little wiffle ball and stuff. I donated my money to the school because that is the future of this world. It is taught. Behavior is taught. Love is taught. Hatred is taught. Racism is taught. Why can't we just be better, man? Why can't we just be better? And that school gave me the biggest glimmer of hope, and, being able to like have that experience. Really, I'm telling you, man, as much as any game, going up there impacted me as much as anything I was involved with.
That's a great quote. And it just proves a bigger overall point as well.
Sure. You can get too old to play and your career is going to be over, but like the impact you're able to make on people and kids and the next generation and pass the torch, that to me is how, you're successful. People say, Holtz, you've done a lot of really cool things. Like, you're really successful. And I tell everybody, here's how I measure success. Let's see how many people show up at my funeral. I don't count money. I don't count trophies. How many people was I able to help and impact through the course and their journey, the course of their life and their journeys through the game and through life. So, gentlemen, if you don't have any, I'll stay with you all day, but if you don't have any more questions, I'll let you go.
Eric, this was a pleasure. Thank you so much. We're hoping to continue this conversation with you again soon. Best of luck with the next, qualifiers. And we're hoping to, do this again sooner rather than later.
I'm one of the guys that does the staffing and stuff for a bunch of those clinics and showcases and stuff like that. So let's definitely stay in touch. You guys have a great weekend. And I'm going to shout it out. Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah, there it is.
Shabbat Shalom. There you go.
Have a great day.